I had a chance to go into the control.
And you did not hesitate. Our veterans did not hesitate when our country called, and we will not hesitate when you need us. And as I stand here today, 35.
I had a chance to go into the control.
And you did not hesitate. Our veterans did not hesitate when our country called, and we will not hesitate when you need us. And as I stand here today, 35 years after those boots first touched the sand in the Arabian desert, I'm filled with gratitude for your service, gratitude for your sacrifice, and gratitude in a world that sometimes feels divided. We can still come together as Americans to say thank you. And may God bless our veterans. May God bless each and every one of you. May God bless your families. May God bless the memory of those who gave all. And may God continue to bless the United States of America. I love you all. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cepeda. Next, we welcome our representative from the city of Tampa, Councilman Luis Vieira.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Real pleasure to be here. I wanted to thank my good friends here in Hillsborough County for all the work that y'all do. This is a beautiful park, and I think that every local government should be dying with jealousy on a park like this. I mean, just take a look around. I remember taking my son here when he was younger, and it paid off. Let's just put it that way, which is you want to raise your kids right, you bring them to this park and teach them a thing or two about the greatness of this country. I would be remiss, by the way, unless if my vision is bad, she may be embarrassed, but I don't care. We have here Tony Gross, who's here. I see her there. She's a Gold Star mother. She's the proud mother of the late Corporal Frank Gross, who gave all in July 16th, 2011. Let's give her a round of applause. And any other Gold Star families here? God bless you, Tony. Love you. So, the Gulf War being 35 years old, I can't believe it. I'm sure y'all can't believe it. I was a kid, 12 years old, going to Florida College Academy in Temple Terrace, a nice Church of Christ school. And I remember that very, very well. Looking back on it, there's a lot of things that are unique about this time and unique about this war and this conflict that are very relevant to us today. Number one is the great coalition that President George Herbert Walker Bush was able to put together internationally in support of this effort, whether or not, regardless of your politics, just a real great effort by a statesman who knew what it was himself to fight in war. He was a proud World War II combat veteran. Another big thing is these are people, many of our Gulf War veterans, this is 1991. These are folks who were born in the early 70s and in the late 1960s. They were little kids when they would read and hear about the Vietnam War. These are folks who knew maybe their parents, maybe their fathers, sometimes their mothers, served the United States military during this very, very troubled time. And they knew what it was to have a fractured country and to see heroes come home to not having the kind of welcome home that heroes deserved, right? And we know that when our Gulf War veterans came home, they received the kind of welcome home that American heroes deserve and that our Vietnam veterans deserved, and every generation of American veterans fighting for our country, including up to today, by the way, including those 4 precious lives that were lost in Iran, the Iran conflict. God rest their souls, always deserve. It was a time of heroes. It's something to have here the amazing family of the late General Norman Schwarzkopf, just a real honor. Just tickled pink over it. I've met them before, good people. But again, being a 12-year-old kid, Stormin' Norman was larger than life. And he really, really was. You'd see him on the screen and you go, now that's a man. You know what I mean? You really, really would. Speaking of another great hero, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the late, great General Colin Powell, another man who we began to see on our television screens, a Vietnam veteran, a man who served in the military during Jim Crow and knew what the greatness of this country was, like General Schwarzkopf, a man who's buried with his fellow heroes at Section 60 in Arlington. You're ever there, you can visit him. And this was a time of sacrifice. Almost 300 Americans gave all in this war. So again, 35 years later, like Commissioner Cepeda said, we come together as Americans, not as Republicans or Democrats, but as Americans. Remember that the many things that unite us should far outweigh the things that divide us. There's a time to talk about those things that divide us, but there's always time to talk about those things that should unite us as Americans. So thank you again, Hillsborough County, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Vieira. Later in the program, we will present awards to the veterans of Desert Shield and the Desert Storm, and to those who served in the United States Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and Special Operations. Due to ongoing operations mentioned earlier, some of the awards presenters have changed from what's in the program, so you may notice some differences. It is my honor now to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Lieutenant General Retired David A. Deptula, United States Air Force. General Deptula is widely recognized as one of the principal architects of modern air power. During Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, he served as the Chief Air Campaign Planner, helping design and execute the air campaign that set the conditions for coalition success. Over his distinguished 34-year career, General Deptula commanded at every level of the Air Force and served as the service's first Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance, shaping how air and space power are integrated into joint operations. Following his military service, General Deptula has continued to serve our nation as a strategist, author, and educator. He's Dean of the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies, the research arm of the Air and Space Forces Association, where his leadership informs national security policy and helps educate current and future leaders on the critical importance of air and space power. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant General David Deptula.
Well, first, thanks very much for the very kind introduction, Bill, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It really is a pleasure and a privilege to join you here today for this very special occasion. Now, right up front, I want to say to our 5 honorees, one from each of the Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Special Operations, thank you for your service in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And as was mentioned earlier, there's another component, and that's the family. So to the families who stood beside you then and stand beside you now, thank you. To the Waterman Twining AFA chapter and the Veterans Council of Hillsborough County, thank you for co-sponsoring this event and bringing so many veterans organizations together in one place. To Hillsborough County Veterans Services and to the Hillsborough County Commission, thank you for your stewardship of Veterans Memorial Park and for the work that you do every day to assist veterans, their dependents, and survivors. To the Hillsborough Sheriff's Honor Guard, thank you very much for stepping in today when other folks from the military are tied up doing other things. Very much appreciated. And to every Desert Shield and Desert Storm veteran here, we're honored to be with you. Now at 0239 Baghdad time on January 17th, 35 years ago, Operation Desert Storm began. It just wasn't the start of a campaign. It was a turning point in the conduct of warfare. It set the conditions for what we now recognize as modern war in 5 major ways. First, it established expectations for low casualties, not because war is ever safe, but because strategy, technology, and joint integration could be applied to produce decisive effects with less loss of life. And just as an aside, I had the opportunity to speak with General Schwarzkopf's wife and daughter just a couple minutes ago. And I have to tell you, leadership matters. And I'm not just saying this because it's this particular occasion, but I've served for a lot of joint commanders and was one myself, and I've never seen a better example of a joint force commander than General Schwarzkopf. And the reason I pause to say that here is because I mentioned saving lives on both sides of the fight, and that was a driving factor behind the guidance that General Schwarzkopf gave to all of us. Second, Desert Storm also foretold precision in the application of force, an expectation that shaped every major operation since then. Third, it introduced a combined and joint air campaign, integrating coalition and surface air operations under one functional commander who could synchronize air power for the theater objectives regardless of what service or what nation the aircraft came from. Fourth, it placed desired effects, not simply destruction, at the center of planning and execution. And fifth, for the first time in history, air power became a centerpiece of strategy and execution for a major war, operating from the opening night to the final hours. Now, saying that doesn't diminish the other services, quite the opposite. And this is one of the points I'd like to get across today, because Desert Storm was proof of a concept for what America means by jointness. Jointness is not little league rules, not every force, every place, all the time, but the disciplined practice of using the right force in the right place at the right time for the right effect, regardless of service and regardless of which nation the coalition provides it. And that's what Desert Storm demonstrated. It lasted 43 days. And air power operated throughout it from start to finish, as did all the other services. And in the final 4 days, ground forces were committed to combat and used swiftly to reoccupy Kuwait. Now, Desert Storm is, as I mentioned, a fine example of not which service mattered most. It's a case study in how joint operations are successfully executed to win. Now, the opening attacks at Desert Storm signaled a radical departure in the conduct of warfare. In the first 24 hours, the master attack plan included more than 150 separate and discrete targets, in addition to the Iraqi fielded forces and surface-to-air missile sites that amounted to over 1,000 aim points in that first 24 hours. That's more targets than were hit in that one day compared to what was hit by the 8th Air Force in all of 1942 and 1943 combined over Central Europe. That kind of scale in that kind of time had never been achieved before. So how was that possible? Well, it's because Desert Storm put together three critical elements: technology, then a focus on effects and outcomes, and finally a concept of operations we came to describe as parallel war, the simultaneous application of force across the breadth and depth of an entire enemy system. By the way, not unlike what you're seeing unfold today over Iran. There are some parallels there. Now, simultaneous attack has always been a desire in warfare, but parallel war at Desert Storm scale had not been possible for three reasons. In the past, you needed mass formations to compensate for lack of precision. You needed huge resources to suppress enemy air defenses. And too often, planning focused solely on destruction rather than the effects needed to achieve desired outcomes. Now, by the late 1980s and early 1990s, two technological solutions, stealth and precision, matured that enabled an effects-based approach to targeting that changed the character of warfare. Here's a fact that captures that transformation. The stealth F-117 force flew less than 2% of the combat sorties, yet it struck over 40% of the fixed target base. And the contrast becomes even clearer when you look at what it took to hit a single heavily defended target without stealth. The first non-stealth strike on an airfield in southeast Iraq with 3 aim points required a force package of over 40 aircraft: bomb droppers, jammers, suppression of enemy air defense aircraft, escorts, and decoys, made up of multiple services and coalition partners working together just to create a window of access. At the same time, we have 20 stealth aircraft hitting 38 aim points across 28 separate targets. In other words, It took 26 non-stealthy aircraft to do what it only took one stealth aircraft to accomplish. Now, I offer that not as a story about one platform, because this is a story about what happens when you match the capability to the mission, when you organize around effects, when you integrate across services and coalition partners and apply the right force at the right time. That's what jointness is. One of Desert Storm's most important innovations was not a weapon, however. It was a way of thinking. The coalition built its air attack strategy by treating Iraq and Saddam's regime as a system of systems. The objective was not simply to destroy tanks, aircraft, and buildings. It was to negate the adversary's ability to operate as a coherent system, to paralyze key strategic and operational level centers of gravity, their leadership, key essential systems, infrastructure, information, and fielded military forces. And the campaign's key objectives reflect that. First was to gain and maintain air supremacy to permit unhindered operations. Second, to isolate and incapacitate the Hussein regime. Third, to destroy Iraq's nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare capabilities. Fourth, to eliminate Iraq's offensive military capability. And finally, to render the Iraqi army in Kuwait ineffective, causing its collapse. Those objectives were achieved rapidly and decisively. And it wasn't magic. It was planning, integration, discipline, and execution by a combined and joint team. And there were several tenets behind the success. First was political will. We had a president who made it very clear, quote, "This will not stand," unquote, in response to aggression, and then built a strategy, assembled a coalition, achieved international backing, and executed that plan. Second, a coherent campaign plan, not a set of disconnected sorties or isolated battles, but a comprehensive plan focused on dismantling critical centers of gravity. Third, a combined Joint Force Air Component commander empowered to integrate coalition and service air operations and to treat each aircraft, missile, and air defense element according to the capability that it brought to the fight. Fourth, replacing gradualism with decisiveness, not rolling pressure that allows an adversary to adapt, but instant and sustained shock that denies recovery. And fifth, a true combined and joint approach, again, using the right force at the right place at the right time. Not a single domain, service-centric mindset. Now, none of this would have worked without all of the services participating. Without maritime forces, you don't gain sea control, sustain presence, launch strike, or protect lines of communication. Without soldiers and Marines, you can't seize, hold, and reestablish sovereign territory, and you can't credibly compel an enemy's final compliance. Without special operations and operators, you don't achieve unique access, unique intelligence, and unique effects in denied areas. And without logistics and the logistics that made it possible, you don't deploy, you don't sustain, and you don't generate combat power. Desert Storm was a case study in the synergy of joint operations, applied intelligently, not equally distributed for appearance's sake. Now, we're here today for something even more important than doctrine or history. We're here to honor people, to honor 5 veterans, each representing one of America's service communities, and through them, to honor all who served in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. This event also reflects something significant about this community. Hillsborough County Veteran Services has observed that Desert Shield and Desert Storm veterans have often been underserviced, under-recognized, not recognized for what they deserve, and too often overlooked between larger narratives. This ceremony corrects that. It says we remember. It says we honor. It says that your service mattered, and it still matters. And the setting matters too. It was already mentioned, But Veterans Memorial Park is not only a place of commemoration, it's a place of active service, helping veterans and families access benefits and anchoring the year's major veteran observances, including Veterans Day and Vietnam veterans events. If this becomes an annual tradition, that's very fitting. Heritage isn't something we observe once. Heritage is something we sustain. In a few moments, we're going to present each honoree with the Eagle on flag delivered by a member of their respective service. That gesture is powerful. It honors the identity and pride of each service. It recognizes the distinct paths that brought each veteran to the fight. And it also symbolizes unity because each served the same flag for the same purpose in the same conflict. To our 5 honorees and to every Desert Shield and Desert Storm veteran today, thank you. Thank you for your courage in a moment of uncertainty. Thank you for your professionalism in a campaign that changed warfare. Thank you for demonstrating what true jointness means, capabilities for integrated for effect. And may we honor your legacy not only in ceremonies, but in the way we train, plan, and think, so that when history calls again, as it did last Saturday with the opening of Operation Epic Fury, America responds with the same clarity, competence, and unity of purpose. So God bless our veterans, God bless our armed forces, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, General Deptula. And as we shook hands there, it was my honor to present you, sir, with a coin recognizing those of us in the Veterans Council of Hillsborough County. As we recognize the veterans today, we do so with the understanding that they represent the countless men and women whose combined efforts made Desert Shield and Desert Storm successful. Their stories reflect the service, sacrifice, and teamwork of an entire generation who answered the call. We now recognize 5 local veterans. Would Colonel retired Emily Farkas of the Waterman Twining AFA chapter please come forward? We are pleased to present an award to Air Force Desert Storm veteran Cynthia Hancock. Senior Airman Cynthia Hancock was assigned to the 39th Ground Combat Security Forces at Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, providing installation perimeter security, including security for Kurdish refugees. Would Jessica Schwarzkopf please come forward? We are pleased to present an award to Army Desert Storm then veteran, then Second Lieutenant Donald Gunn. During Desert Storm and Desert Shield, Lieutenant Gunn, at that time, deployed with the 101st Airborne Division in Saudi Arabia and provided mechanized support to the 101st Airborne Division, better known as the Screaming Eagles. Thank you so much. Would Rear Admiral retired Sean Crean please come forward? We are pleased to present an award to Navy Desert Storm veteran Corpsman Paul Christian Burcham. Paul served as a Navy corpsman on the hospital ship U.S. Navy Ship Comfort. He provided around-the-clock care for coalition troops. Jessica Schwarzkopf, we need you again. Please come forward. We are pleased to present an award to Special Operations Desert Storm veteran Kevin Logan. Kevin was a Green Beret company commander to the 3rd Special Forces Group Airborne, where he led command and control from King Fahd Air Base in Saudi Arabia. He directed the occupation of a Kuwaiti air base and ultimately the American Embassy in Kuwait City. Oh. Would Master Sergeant Retired Edward Valdez please come forward? We are pleased to present an award to Marine Desert Storm veteran Dwayne Mitchell. During Desert Shield and Desert Storm, Dwayne served, as all Marines do, as a rifleman first.
We have another special Desert Storm veteran we would like to honor, and that's Lieutenant General Dave Deptula.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Means a lot.
Hope we surprised you. Once again, these veterans represent the countless men and women whose combined effort made Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. To our honorees and to all who supported Desert Shield and Desert Storm, whether in combat or support roles, we offer our deepest gratitude. Thank you. I need to give special thanks to the staff at the Veterans Community Services and our law enforcement partners at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for providing support and guidance for this event, including on guard, honor guard, and on-site security. Without their assistance, I'm not sure we could have held this event today. I would also like to give thanks to all the Waterman Twining AFA chapter and Hillsborough County Veterans Council members who helped plan this event. Thanks to our volunteers from the organizations that are listed on the program that have also helped. And to resource professionals in the red tents, you'll notice over that way. Again, we want to recognize all veterans who served in Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So in just a moment when the event ends, if you were a veteran of either of these, can you please come forward? And Joe Moberger actually has a small memento for each one of you. This concludes our ceremonies, and I'll let you know we do have light refreshments over that way. And I want to thank all of you for attending.